Good morning, students and parents. A very warm welcome to the very first podcast series with Indus Eagles. Today we have with us the head boy of class of 2025, Ronith Lahoti, with us. Ronith will be joining the famous University of Pennsylvania, UPenn as we call it. And in this conversations, we are going to discuss with Ronit his entire journey, his life experiences, how he programmed his mission for contributing to the school community, and eventually heading to UPenn. A very warm welcome to you, Ronit.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
So, Ronit, you've been with the school for very long period, but do share us. Let us begin with your journey at Indus International School. Share us your experiences at Indus, how you started, what was the important stepping stones and landmarks that you experienced in your journey at Indus.
Right, so I joined Indus all the way back in 2017 when I was entering the fifth grade. And from there, the entire MYP and the DP program I completed at Indus. So I've seen Indus change a lot over the past few years, especially after COVID. And I can tell you that it did get a bit more inclined towards university admissions and placements, and just the competitive nature of the school, I personally believe, got better after the lockdown. And from what I have seen at Indus, I would say that joining a bit early within the MYP program, or at least in grade 9 towards the end of the MYP program, is often ideal, because a lot of my friends joined after grade 10, directly in grade 11, and then jumped right into the IB diploma. And it was something, the gap between, say, CBSE and IB or ICSE and IB was really vast. Not in terms of the content. The content was more or less similar in terms of the way the questions are asked and the students are evaluated, and the various projects we have, for example, the internal assessments and the extended essays. So I would say that to get a good idea of this pattern of the IB, it's always good to have done MYP as well.
Interesting. Thank you for those insights, Ronit. How did you align your academic journey to the future program that you wish to pursue in university? And what preparation did you do in your prominent high school years?
Certainly. So I was 100% sure that I would be going into engineering, but I wasn't sure about which field. So I explored my options, and then I settled down with chemical engineering, biomedical engineering, and material science. So when I applied to the universities, I knew that I wanted to do one of these three. And I realized after talking to a couple of admissions officers at university fairs that the school conducted, as well as you and the department, I realized, sorry, that there are three main subjects that these universities look out for at the higher level. And these are math, AA, analysis and approaches, physics, and chemistry. So when you're applying for engineering, these are the three subjects that have to be there. Now, biology is really optional. And though I was applying for biomedical engineering, and even at UPenn, I got in for chemical and biomolecular engineering. I never really studied biology. I only took it in grade 10, where you were allowed to take a lot of sciences, in fact, all three. But when it came to grade 11, I realized that not a lot of this bio aspect part is actually covered within chemistry. So you don't really necessarily need to take biology as a separate subject unless you want to go into pure biology or medicine. So that's why I stuck with the classic physics, chemistry, and math choices.
Okay, interesting. So you were always inclined towards sciences because I believe your family is in finance and other commercial fields.
Right. So both my parents work in finance, and I personally do enjoy finance and would eventually want to do something with finance. But the thing is, I find chemistry and biology a lot more interesting, and just the nature of engineering and solving complex problems excites me. So that's one of the reasons I took these subjects.
Interesting. And how did you manage to excel in those academically rigorous subjects? Tell us something about, I know you were away for a lot of preparations in your extracurricular activities. How did you manage to excel in those subjects?
Right. So each subject has its own way of approaching it, right? So I'll
Mhm.
just give you the approaches that work for me the best. But in most cases, for people, they might prefer other approaches. Regardless, with physics, I realized that it's all in the textbook. A lot of what came in our exam was similar to what we did in the textbook, so mainly the SOCOS textbooks. So I would say that stick to these textbooks, understand the way the problems are solved, the physics behind it. It's often easier said than done, but just understanding the gist of the problem would mean that the only thing you need to do is math, just some simple math. So yeah, I started working towards understanding the problems and then finding ways to solve it. And I realized that all of these, like a lot of these problems solved had similar patterns. Like just the wordings would change or the way they would phrase it would change, but the method was more or less the same. So that's what I did mainly for physics. As for chemistry, there's a lot of information that needs to be memorized. So I would say that work with the textbooks, memorize as much as possible. But that does not mean that you should not practice questions. Chemistry requires a lot of practice as well. I would say a bit more than physics because um, primarily because chemistry is vast. You have organic chemistry, physical chemistry. Then there's a lot of new technologies that talk about like lithium ion batteries, stuff that just has come in the past decade within like the school based curriculum, like which was previously taught at a higher level but only recently was introduced at the high school level. So I would say that dedicate a lot of time towards reading in chemistry. And I mean, at the end of the day, you have to memorize a lot, and that's something that a lot of people don't like about chemistry. And as for math, math is completely about practice. Practice as many questions as possible and as many different questions as possible with your calculator, without your calculator. Specifically, and this is specifically for analysis and approaches, I believe AI, analysis and interpretations, has a similar approach where you need to practice a lot, of course. But again, I never took it, so I cannot really make a comment about that. But for AA, I would say use Revision Village, use the textbooks, and a lot of the past papers also are really good in terms of solving and have a wide variety of questions.
Interesting. Thank you, Ronit, for your detailed insights on academics. But your passion projects was something that the entire school was talking about. You invested a lot of time in those projects, both inside the school community as well as outside. So, if you could please help us understand some of your passion projects that have helped you to secure the admissions at such a selective university that you're joining.
Certainly. So I would say that passion projects should be started way early, back in like grade 8, grade 7. I personally did not do that, and that's one of the things I regret. But if you really want to get into a top university for engineering, I would say that start out early and work towards the science fairs or the Olympiads, because passion projects are something that's always there. You can always have a passion project on the side, but in terms of getting that secure spot, I would say that Olympiads and fairs are your greatest strength there. Like they are the most impactful on the application, specifically for engineering. As for passion projects, I started in grade 9, towards the end of grade 9. I started with a really simple drive where I partnered with a local NGO donate to donate notebooks to leper colonies in Pune. And it wasn't really related to science, right? Neither was it something that was related to my major in any way whatsoever, but it was a start. And I would say that start as small as possible, but just starting something gives you a lot of ideas. So when I was able to do that, I was able to meet other volunteers there who were with me. And some of those volunteers suggested me recycling. Then I started to explore options in recycling. And then that's how I came across that entire road project that you guys must have heard about. So essentially, I would say that again, networking is really important. And doesn't matter where you start, eventually you can link it to your major. So I was able to talk about how my initial drive led me to explore the SDGs. And from the SDGs, I was able to explore how chemistry as a science or chemical engineering can be used to solve these SDGs, or to find better, more specifically, to find better ways of recycling.
Interesting. Ronit, we would love to add and elaborate on for the audience, for the benefits of our audience who may not be aware of your projects. Could you be able to elaborate on the social projects a little more, introduce them, and yeah, help the community understand those projects in better?
All right, so my main project was Plastic Warriors, where we collected plastic bottles from the school and other restaurants in the locality and recycled those plastic bottles using chemistry to then reinforce the road to school, as well as reinforce this other patch of uh, road in the city. So essentially, it looked at a circular economy of how chemistry can be used to tackle two problems: the road infrastructure as well as plastic waste. So that was my main passion project, and it rooted from my passion in chemistry. As for my other projects, did a couple of uh, I did a couple of non-profit work, which would involve a lot of donation and these health checkups at schools as well for the underprivileged. But I would say that those were just a part of my initiative. That wasn't the essence of my initiative. My main passion was for chemistry, and that's why that recycling project was the largest one that I undertook. Apart from that, I was also riding horses competitively, so that is another thing I talked about in my applications. But sadly, I could not get recruited in any of the teams because none of the teams really had international recruits for equestrian sports. So that was something that was a bit unfortunate, honestly. But if you're applying to college, and you are playing a sport at a decent level, I would suggest trying to get recruited or at least working harder to show an interest in joining the team.
Interesting. Those are really innovative projects, Ronit, because building roads from waste materials and especially materials like plastic is a new age thinking, and we really applaud you for your thought process and applying your concepts in real life. But I'm sure there were many challenges faced by you during the course of these projects. Could you elaborate on those challenges and eventually how did Indus Pune help you in overcoming some of those challenges?
So Indus really helped us with most of the coordination. I would like to thank Mr. Nalawade and our DA, Captain Bali, because they were keystone members within the process, and they helped us get the municipal approvals as well as uh, overlook the entire process of building the road because it was right next to the school. So they were there on the site helping us out. And apart from that, I would also say that I met a lot of my co-founders at Indus. So Ronit especially. He was someone who had interests similar to mine, and thus, when I met him at Indus, I was able to grow this initiative with him.
Interesting. But yes, were there any specific challenges, restrictions by government, or acquiring the material that you need, or any permissions that you face through?
Right. So honestly, there was no major hurdle except funding. So the
Mhm.
road to school was private, as well as the second road we did was private. So we only needed the local municipal permissions. We didn't need any national permissions per se. As for the recycling, I already had a recycling partner. So I just asked them if they knew a road contractor who could help us with the road. So that part was sorted. Now, the only challenge over here was funding, as I mentioned before. And to solve that, we had to actually go up to a lot of these real estate developers within the city and pitch them the idea of of building this road. And well, we got a couple of rejections, but at the end of the day, we did end up working with the Oxford Group as well as the Sarthi Group and Blue Ventures as well to undertake these projects.
Interesting. How did your leadership roles at Indus helped you shape the profile for these competitive universities that you have already admitted and UPenn where you'll be joining?
Correct. So, from what I've noticed, a lot of the international students who get into these top universities are already leaders within their school. It's sort of like it's an unsaid prerequisite, right? That you need to show some kind of leadership or some kind of initiative. You don't have to be the head boy of your school or the head girl, but rather even being on the council or being the founder of an initiative at school or being the leader of a club would make a difference, because it's not about the position itself, it's also about the impact you have. And as the head boy, I was able to undertake these projects and also work with the council towards these other research projects that uh, General Ray had assigned us. So I would say that those were some of the keystone moments that I talked about within my essays, and yeah, that's how I believe I got an upper edge on the admissions process.
Absolutely. Uh, can you help us or walk us through the moment where you began receiving the acceptance letters and, of course, some rejections as well from the top institutions? And was there a particular one that felt so meaningful or validating of your years of hard work?
I would say U Chicago was a surprise because I applied early action and I did not expect that I would get in. I was just hoping that I would be deferred, but then I got in, and this was just one day after my deferral from the University of Pennsylvania. So I was a bit upset, but with U Chicago, I think things really lightened. Things were a bit better actually, because now I could focus on other applying to other top universities and I didn't really have to apply to any other safeties or mid-level target universities anymore because I had U Chicago. So I would say that that was one of the key instances that really showed me that everything is finally paid off. That I at least that I'm going to college. Finally, I'm going to college and I'm going to a good college, and that was the mindset.
I mean, chemical engineering over the years I've seen is one of the most competitive majors, especially in the US. They also consider it as a very sensitive program. So admissions are always scrutinized. The recruitment is one of the toughest. So you've had a few more offers, both in the US and UK. Could you take us through those offers as well?
Yes, in the UK, I had UCL, University of Manchester, and University of Edinburgh. And in the US, I had U Chicago and a couple of other colleges like UIUC and UC Davis and UC San Diego. But from what I've seen, engineering as an Indian international, getting admitted into engineering is really competitive. Regardless of where you apply, it is always going to be competitive because demographically, a lot of Indians and demographically, a lot of Asians do engineering, Asian males to be specific. And that's why when you're applying, in terms of diversity, you don't really have an advantage per se. So this would mean that you need to stand out. You can't just have like one research paper and maybe a couple of competitions and AIME, right? Because a lot of people already have that. You aren't really differentiated in any way. I would say for me, horse riding might have helped in the differentiation process, but also my passion project. So I would say that you could look out for something like that. But I would say one of the misunderstood things is that you don't always have to be differentiated, right? Um, Even if you don't have a differentiation strategy and you have stuck with a niche that is very common, like for example, AI ML or something like that everyone's doing. But within that niche that everyone's doing, you are at the top, right? You have won a major award or you were able to have a major impact on the community, then that's what they would also prioritize. So, regardless, you don't have to always differentiate something. I would say that follow your passion, do what you're the best at, and just show that you're the best at that.
Interesting. For the students who are listening to us this morning, could you help us elaborate on the difference, how you strategize your applications to the US compared to the applications to UK? What elements of applications did you emphasize when you were applying to the US, and how did it differ to the ones you applied UK?
So honestly, I'll tell you that both the countries have different requirements. They look out for different things within students. And in the UK, it's about the ESAT when you're applying for engineering. And I mean engineering at top colleges like Cambridge or Imperial. And I would say that prepare for the ESAT. I honestly did not prepare for the ESAT. I thought it's going to be easy and I overestimated my ability. So when I went in there, I could barely make the cut for Imperial, I remember, but I did not make it for Cambridge. So I would say that work hard towards these entrance tests because they're more important than your predicted grade. Everyone has a 45 or a 44 when they're applying with their predicted grades, right? But it's this ESAT that really differentiates everything. And then the interview is a completely different stage altogether. So I would say that when you're working towards the UK, you want to focus on these two aspects. And I'm sorry, yeah. For the UK, it's about the impact you have and also your extracurriculars. And grades are more of a prerequisite. So grades are what they use to filter the students out in most cases, actually. And because everyone has those top grades at the top SAT scores. After that, it's the extracurriculars that come into place. So I would say that grades need to be there, SAT needs to be there, and then your extracurriculars are what you can play around with and develop over the years.
Interesting. But let me tell you, Ronit, not all of those who apply will have a 44 or a 45 like you. And it takes a lot of rigor and committed efforts to get to that kind of academic performance. But could you help us understand how did the career counseling and college placement department guided you throughout this journey, and how what kind of support did you receive here at Indus, which helped you identify these choices?
Correct. So the department helped me make a university list that was balanced. So they knew just because I had a 45 predicted does not mean that I'm going to get into all the top universities. They did make me apply to a lot of safeties and target schools. They made me apply to schools that were fit for my major. So, for instance, I did not apply to Harvard, and everyone was like, you should apply, you should give it a try, you have a 45. But the thing is, Harvard doesn't have chemical engineering. They have pure chemistry and then they have material science. And and I did not really like any of the programs there. So the career uh, department actually told me that there's no point applying here, and instead you should apply to a university that you would actually want to study at. So that's one of the things that's really important, finding a fit university. Just because the university is highly ranked or is really prestigious does not mean it's the best fit for you. There might be a university that might be a better fit for you, not only in terms of academics, but also in terms of the social life and the various clubs they have there, or a sports team that you really like. For instance, I applied to Dartmouth for their equestrian team because they have one of the best equestrian teams in the nation. So, although Dartmouth isn't really known for engineering, so that's one
Mhm.
of the things that the department really helped me out with applying to get recruited as an athlete.
Interesting. Thank you for your insights, Ronit. Your initiatives at Indus community, uh, service, media, philosophy, and education reform. How did the school environment and faculty support you or influence your ability to experiment across disciplines?
I'm sorry, could you just repeat your question? I couldn't fully.
Yes, yes. So your initiatives at Indus, they combine community service, engineering, they have some form of media, sports, educational reform. How did the school environment and faculty support you or influence your ability to experiment across discipline?
So, one of my other projects was the medicinal garden.
Mm-hmm.
And within the medicinal garden, I saw the amalgamation of botany, biology essentially, and business management and mathematics as well to a large extent, where I was able to understand how we could perhaps optimize this layout that we had, optimize the landscape to have different kinds of species. And then we used biology to understand which species could be placed next to which species to ensure that there's a sense of mutualism or symbiosis between these species. So I would say that my education at Indus, as well as the teachers I was able to talk to about this, Miss Mohini from the biology department and Mr. Mark from the math department. And I would say both of them really helped me understand the entire process. And that's how we were able to get the medicinal garden. And the medicinal garden actually won the national record for the largest medicinal garden in any school in India. So I was really grateful for that as well.
Yeah, and we are very happy to have these kind of recognitions for you, Ron. How do you stay grounded and practice mindfulness while balancing your academic and your commitments to sports?
I would say a large part of it is equestrian sport. So just going to the stables every day, and riding the horse, or even like grooming my horse within the stable or mucking the stable out. Those were some of the activities that I believe kept me grounded and also got my mind off things, because when I was at the stable I did not think about university applications or my SAT score or my grades. I was completely detached from that world, and instead I was living this nice countryside rural life where my primary focus was the horse and the fields and the views from on top of the horse, right? So that really kept me, I would say that kept me sane throughout the entire process. So maybe for you, that could be another sport or to altogether, like badminton or cricket or football, or maybe even playing video games. I would say that playing video games helps out a lot as well. Of course, when you play it in limits, but yeah, I would say that just doing some activity that relaxes you, or doing some activity that's somehow not, that does not remind you of anything else, an activity where you completely indulge yourself into that activity. I would say something like that would be a good escape from this entire process. And it's much required, honestly, because once you come back out of it, you can see that you're already performing better. You're more alert, you're more focused. And after a hard day at school, you know that there's something you could look out for in the evening or look forward to.
Interesting, Ronit. I'm sure this has helped you a lot. And I truly believe that your commitment to sports and the way you have involved yourself, it's a very demanding sports where you need a lot of balance. You need to talk to your horse. You need to understand what it is feeling and then take it forward. So we have seen you performing. Looking back at your journey at Indus, what do you think defines your legacy here? What advice would you offer to the younger students hoping to create meaningful impact within their school community?
I would suggest that you can start out by perhaps understanding what the community wants, talk to as many students as possible and as many teachers as possible as well. And then from there on, you once you identify that problem, try to find a solution for it. So for me, that was the road project. But for you, it could be something else. It could be something that's personal. It could be something that might be linked to you and your friend group, or it could be something that you might have observed and then thought of solving. So I would say that once you find that problem, then try to work towards solving it. And that's how you're going to have the highest impact in your community, when you find that problem that everyone's talking about, but there's no action happening towards solving it. So yeah, I would say that's one of the ways you can have a lasting impact. That's good.
Interesting. Thank you, Ronit, for this. I'm sure your middle years program, the MYP program, the way it was taught and delivered, and actually the DP program, the teaching, you know, that teachers are examiners here, subject experts here, workshop leaders here. So, how did this entire ecosystem of support system around you supported you in who you are today, and how do you look back and reflect on at your journey in from the academic perspective, the way the school delivered the curriculum and supported you?
All right. So is this specific to the middle years program or the diploma program as well?
Both, I would like to summarize it for both.
Okay, so as for the middle years program, most of it was unfortunately online. But regardless, I remember that we had a lot of these sessions online, like the mini principal session and our leadership curriculum sessions as well, innovation curriculum actually. And I would say that both of those played a major role in my development. Or, but of course, it was these main subjects, the subject teachers, I would say, who really helped me understand the subjects and build my domain knowledge. So I would say that for as a suggestion, I would ask all of you to maybe reach out to your teachers and talk to them as much as possible. Talk to them after your class, and also reach out to them on emails to see where can they help you if they have any other, if they have any extra material, or if they have a few worksheets that they can hand out to you, or sometimes they would also want to sit down with you to discuss your IA one-on-one or extended essay one-on-one, or even TOK for that matter. So I would say that's something I did. I reached out to all of my teachers, and I believe you should too, because the teachers themselves also get really excited when the student takes an own initiative to perhaps finish a task or explore something new for their internal assessment, rather than just take one of those hackneyed ideas from Google.
Interesting. So, do you think you got sufficient support for these internal assessments and external essay, the complicate curriculum of IB?
Yes, I would say that there was a lot of support. Of course, truthfully, there were setbacks as well because of the large volume of students. I would say that getting feedback took a lot of time in most cases. But regardless, I would say that reaching out to your teachers early on, like I'm talking within this at the start of grade 11, yeah, and during the winter break of grade 11 would be something that would be really smart, because that way you would have a lot more time in your hands, and you wouldn't like uh, have everything piled up for the last semester when you have college applications and you're preparing for your finals.
Absolutely, absolutely. Planning early certainly helps, and it gives you a lot of insights about who you are and how you're performing in your academic curriculums and expectation. I've also seen a lot of teachers when the students approach them beyond the school classrooms and in the corridors and in the dining halls and in the late evening hours. They like to support their students. They like to provide them as much support as they can. What was your experience like throughout this journey?
So I would say that teachers did like me because I reached out to them after the class as well, and reached out to them on email. But I would say that a lot of my learning happened at home as well, because every day when I would return back from horse riding, I would try to watch as many videos on YouTube to understand concepts. And I would also practice a lot from Revision Village and the Toddle, and like the worksheets that the teachers would give on Toddle. Some of these, sometimes they give optional worksheets or optional tasks and SDLs, and children don't really want to do these because they think that these are optional. But I would say even if the questions are really easy or the questions are repeated, still give it a try. Still try solving it, because not only would you be building memory in a way, retaining that information, but also it's a way of showing demonstrated interest and within the class, and the teachers would also be really happy about that, and that's how they would want to help you a bit more.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ronit, for this details and insight. I really hope that our audience is listening and they are making a note of what steps they could take in their preliminary part of high school years to establish themselves as a strong academic student. If you had to think of one daily habit or routine that helps you stay focused and intentional in both in your work and academic life, what would that be?
uh, I would say meditating to a large extent. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Usually meditate for around 15 minutes to half an hour every day in the evening. And I believe that even you should give it a try, because it really helps you calm down. And that's also one of the ways I'm able to retain a lot of my memory and just go over the concepts I learned that day. So I would say meditation is one of the things you could focus on.
That's interesting, Ronit. Many, or I would say very few students today believe in the art of meditation. I mean, they literally go back to their gadgets, internet, mobile phones, gaming, social media. I mean, these are the avenues that students go to. Probably coming from you, the advice to younger ones about meditation is a crucial advice, I would say. And I would strongly encourage our community, both teachers, students, and parent community, to practice meditation in their daily life.
I would say that meditation is not only just like sitting in one place, closing your eyes and like reciting something or listening to some soft music and closing your eyes. Just like sitting quietly in a room without any technology, or just staring outside the window and staring at something, like a sense of object fixation where you're looking at an object and just staring at it. I would say that by itself is also meditation in a way because it induces thought. And that's what I used to do. I used to just sit in a room quietly and just stare at the walls and stare at the ceiling and um, just try to think of everything I did today and reflect on my day and how can I perhaps better myself tomorrow.
Interesting, Ronit. I really like your perspective, and I really hope that our student community understands or connects with what you're thinking and is delivering. Finally, what advice would you give to future Indus Eagles who are starting their journey, thinking about a big league university, thinking about a super selective university? What advice would you give it to them about planning their future college life?
I would say in the big leagues, it's all about standing out. And to stand out as an Indian international applying, I would say that you need to do something crazy, right? That could be a startup that you founded, or X amount of money you raise, or perhaps a really prestigious award. But the truth is that if you don't have anything, if you don't have that spike in your application, it can be really difficult to craft a narrative, especially if you're applying for a really common major such as one of the engineering majors. So I would say that you need some kind of top quality award, like an Olympiad award, or perhaps a social service award, or maybe a top science fair or a top publication. I would say you need something like that because at the end of the day, this is they want the best of the best, right? So you need a way to stand out. So I would say that start planning these things as early as grade 8, grade 9. I mean, a lot of the people I know who got into MIT or Caltech, the top schools for engineering, have been doing these Olympiad preparations since grade 6 and grade 7, and have also done science fair preparations since like grade 9 ish, and done research at actual labs. So I would say that you have to do something at that scale to get into these big league universities. And more importantly, you have to be driven to do it. You have to actually enjoy the process, and that has to be your passion. Because if you're just doing it for that prestige or for the university name, then I'm 100% sure that within that entire process you are going to feel exhausted, you are going to feel bored, and you are going to sacrifice on a lot of things. That could be perhaps spending time with your friends or playing your favorite video game, but you have to make those sacrifices as well, and do it only if you are really passionate about it. Or else I would say that there's no harm in going to another university that might not sound that prestigious, because at the end of the day, you can always either transfer into another university, or even coming out of a slightly lower ranked university won't really make a difference in the job market if that's your final year. But if you want to go to a top university to make connections, or perhaps hang out with people who have similar interests, then I would say that you have to be really passionate about what you're doing in the first place. And hence, that's how you get these top quality awards or the really prestigious accomplishments.
Wonderful, Ronit. It was great to understand your perspective, and the advice that you have given us today certainly resonates with what the career counseling department at Indus feels, or what the teaching community feels at Indus. It's about taking your time very seriously, investing your time. And yes, you don't get something big in life without giving away something that you really love. Could be your favorite video game, or could be your internet access, or your social media. I think our student generation needs to understand that to be in a competitive world like this, we need to utilize our time well. Time management has been a problem for few of our students in the past, but really the way you have reflected, I'm sure many of them will understand the importance of time and plan their future more effectively.
Yeah, I would say it's about finding a balance. And if you're not able to balance something, you have to drop it. There's
Hmm.
have to
Mm.
make that.
I think balance is the key to life. I mean, if we don't balance our time in terms of meditating, exercising, practicing gratitude, and eventually planning our entire day, probably we are going to miss out on some important elements of our life. So, so really, I'm really glad to see you talking today, and the way you shared insights about the school, the community, your teachers, the way you prepared for higher education was insightful. And we really hope that you will continue shine, you will continue doing your best at UPenn, and you will be a remarkable Indus alumni and making us proud. Thank you so much, Ronit, for agreeing to talk to us on this very first podcast series, and wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you.